Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Ladd, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 204. We have a great podcast today and it's just Pete and myself talking, but we've already had a little chat. We've got stuff that we want to kind of talk about and themes and things we can discuss. And obviously the last couple of weeks we've had Andrew Russell last week. The week before that, we had Pavlo Kordiaka from the Ukraine. So we've had some great guests over the last couple of weeks. And next week for episode 205, we have, I don't think I confirmed last week on the podcast. I don't think I did. But episode 205 next week is going to be with Lucy Underdown, who just won the Britain's Strongest Woman. And she's also the strongest female deadlifter in the world. She was the first female to break 700 pounds on the deadlift. And she's gone a bit more than that now as well, I think. So she will be with us next week for episode 205. She's also a full-time police officer in the UK. So yeah, that's going to be really, really good having a chat with her. But today, like I said, is myself and Pete. We'll have a quick catch up at the start, and then probably the catch up will merge into the conversations that we're going to have, which is absolutely fine. And it's kind of, we like to keep things, as you know, quite organic and quite flowing. So that won't be a bad thing. So yeah, Pete, how are you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well. I just think it's quite interesting. Without getting political, we're going to be talking to a police officer next week and all that. And it's like, oh, well, like there's not that many of them left, is there? So it's quite an honour.
And today we are recording. We don't do politics on this podcast at all. We actively avoid it. But it is well, it's two things, isn't it? It's the 4th of July, which is American Independence Day.
Treason Day, yeah.
And it's the general election day. General election. Yeah,
I've just been looking. If you're watching on video, I've been looking off to the side, right? It's because we've got loads of crap through the letterbox at the minute, don't we? And this thing, right?
Don't do anything if it's a political
No, it's just funny because
Okay.
it's just funny, right? So it is a political flyer, right? And it's got general election Thursday the 4th. I'll not say who it is. Someone standing in Bath for one of the parties. And what they want to do is open up a 50 million new cancer centre, open that up, right? 5G campaign and stop the bollards. Honestly, this is what it gets like, right? People in Bath, people who live in Bath think we've got problems here, right? And it's like go to somewhere, some random northern town, and they're not worried about bollards and like so much about potholes. They're just not. It's not an issue. Whereas in Bath, if seriously, it's on there as the third thing after those two. Like one of them, a cancer centre, right? Yeah. Okay, that's a big deal. Bollards, not so much.
It's like Alan Partridge protesting against the pedestrianisation of Norwich City Centre. Yeah, do me. No, so yeah, it's general election today in England. And it's American Independence Day. So happy 4th of July to our American listeners. And, well, not happy election day. It's just one of the things that we do, isn't it, over here? So, yeah, we got elections today. Excellent. So, Pete, yeah, what's been going on? I see you're wearing is it the Eat, Move, Lift T-shirt?
Yeah. What's it in the... Yeah.
What's the gentleman's name? He was on the podcast.
Tom Barber.
Ah, that's it. Tom Barber. Yeah. His T-shirt there. Cool.
I feel confident enough to wear this T-shirt now because I've been a little bit podgy over the last. We were just talking about this over the last few months.
I was going to say, yeah, you got sort of snug sleeves. Well, it's snug in the right places.
I'll tell you what, it's tighter than it used to be across the shoulders. This is why I got a bit podgy actually because I've been getting stronger in pressing and pistols and all that sort of stuff. So I've been eating more because I was getting tired, and I was speaking to Paul. And I was like, I'm getting tired, and then because I'm doing like sets of 5 with 36 kilos on pistols, 5 sets of that. When after the amount of walking and everything that I've been doing, it's tiring. And he just said, you probably just need to eat more protein. So I did. But then I started like eating more and more and more, and just started getting a bit bigger. And you know, one for Paul Field, for Captain Field. Basically, it got beyond the point where the underpants, the belt line of my underpants was starting to fold over. So I was like, right, and I need to get that. I need to get on point with that. So that's what I've been doing.
Excellent. Well, that's going to kind of lead us into something in a minute. But before we start, we will quickly. Was it? No, it wasn't. It was. No, it was with Dan, wasn't it? It was episode 200. So a couple of episodes back. We have an apology to make to the people of Stoke. We did.
One guy in particular who commented on YouTube.
So I think Dan had sort of said something about people from a certain place in the United States, which I can't really remember what he said, but he said, what's a place in the UK that no one wants to admit to being from? And then Pete just plucked a random town out, and he plucked Stoke out, and then we had a message from someone on YouTube who's from Stoke, but they did say, we're not worried about not wanting to be from here, but we're not in because I think Pete referred to it as a northern town. He said we're not a northern town, we're the North Midlands.
And actually, I did put in the comment, if you want to go and find it, I should have said Sunderland, but you know, I said Stoke instead accidentally.
Okay, so
but I'm only saying Sunderland because of obvious reasons, because I'm from Newcastle and I don't give a toss about all that rivalry. I don't really care.
So apologies for the listeners and viewers from Stoke,
and Sunderland
and Sunderland. And Sunderland. Okay.
Have you ever watched Scott Squad?
No.
You know the what? You know the one where he finds the time capsule and with the Gary Glitter.
Yeah, but what is that? What program was it?
That's Scott Squad, right?
Oh,
so it's that guy. He was in Absolutely, which used to be on Channel 4 years ago.
Okay.
So, but there's an episode where him as the police commissioner, he said something about some demographic. So he has to stand there and apologize, but then he keeps making references in his apology to other demographics. And he goes, it's not like I insult. And then he goes, right, okay, I have to apologize to them. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So we've done Stoke. We've apologized to the people of Sunderland yeah,
that's okay. That's good. That's good.
We'll stop there.
Right. So just touching on things. And so we've what we've been up to and where we're at. We just, or we, as in I and the members from my from the gym Unique Results, just had our walking weekend last weekend in Norfolk, and we stayed in Great Yarmouth in a hotel, and we did 2 days of walking. The first day was just kind of a nice 4-mile walk. We met at Winterton Beach, and it's a beach in Norfolk where you get lots of seals and things on the beach and in the sea. They literally all come off and lay on the beach. It's lovely. But we did a 4-mile walk on the Friday afternoon, and there was 26 of us, and people ranging from, I think probably like 40s is the youngest, up to, we had quite a few people in their 70s doing it. And then on the Saturday, we did about 12, 13 miles walk. And we, obviously Pete walks all the time, didn't you? But I was surprised how my legs were, and specifically my hamstrings. I think I was walking in walking boots, and they're quite, obviously I'm always barefoot at the gym or in minimal shoes, which weigh nothing. So walking sort of 13 miles in, 17 miles over 2 days in walking boots, my hamstrings were really kind of tender for a few days. So walking is a serious, serious activity, isn't it, Pete? I mean, 12, 13 miles is nothing for you, I don't think. The amount you walk per week, accumulative. But it's easy to underestimate how difficult distance walking is on varied terrains and up and down and across sand and all the. I mean, sand's awful anyway. But
I was going to say, was there any hills or anything?
I mean, not really hills, nothing like you've got in Bath, but inclines. I'd say, but not.
Because that's really the thing. If you walk, I've walked along. I've done like 20 odd miles along a canal towpath before, which is horrible because it's hard, like as in hard ground, and it's just flat. And you get fatigued. Whereas if you're up and down, you get a bit out of breath going uphill, but you're using your legs different. And then when you come down, it's a bit different, and obviously it's a bit harder on the knees and quads and all that sort of stuff. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. But yeah, if you're undulating, it's I find that much better because it's a little bit of change. But if you're doing more flat, but walking on sand as well. Have you ever walked on a shingle beach as well?
Yeah, that's where we were doing beach bits. Yeah, the thing was on the second day, I think there was about a 4-mile stretch, which was just 4 miles on a path that ran beside a body of water. I think it was like a huge sort of lake or something. But it was just, like you say, a tow path that was kind of fairly thin, totally flat, hard and compacted, and it was just sort of like 4 miles along that. Very flat, just no real changing undulation or anything like that. So no, that was.
But it'll change it. Like wearing boots will change the shape of your feet and the gait and the heaviness and all of that. I mean, bloody hell, we could talk about that for months. You can argue online for months about hiking boots and whether they should be rigid, whether they should be flexible. Because I've got the Vivo boots.
Yeah.
I've got a tracker.
They're quite soft and supple, aren't they?
Really are, yeah.
Yeah.
There's the Tracker 2 ones. I had a pair of those, and they were great. They lasted me about 3 years because I was worried whether they'd be rugged enough, and they were. But then I bought these other ones because the Tracker 2s have got a glued sole to the leather, whereas these other ones, Tracker FGs, I think they're called, have got a stitched sole. So I thought, that'll be better. However, I've had them about a year, and they're nearly done because the sole's nearly worn through because the sole's really slippy. Yeah. If it's wet and you're walking on anything like any rocks or anything, they just slide.
Okay.
I nearly come a cropper on them a couple of times, so I'm going to go back to the Tracker 2s when I get when I get a new pair. But they are really good, but they're like a flat thing. And then, but there's the thing of like, well, if you're walking up and down, I mean, mountains, right? Not like I'm not talking
slopes.
Yeah, I'm talking hills, right?
Yeah,
like in the lakes or something like that.
Yeah.
You're walking up and down those. How much ankle support do you actually need based on how strong your ankles are, right? And if you wear rigid boots, you've not got as much flexibility. So walking down steps is really hard because you can't flex your feet as much, flex your ankles as much, sorry. Yeah, all sorts. So I've found that having the Vivo boots or the barefoot boots, the minimalist stuff that are like, they're still boots, so they still cover your ankles and everything, but they're so flexible, so they allow your feet to move and everything. So walking down steps, walking uphill, everything is just better for me because I'm used to wearing them. So it might be better for you as well because you're used to that.
Yeah, because I really felt my left side anyway, I had a slight hamstring pull a couple of weeks ago while I was deadlifting, and then if my hamstring felt fine, but I really noticed there's obviously something going on down the left side a little bit because my not probably 2/3 through the walk on the Saturday, so maybe I don't know 8 or 9 miles into the 13 miles, my left like Achilles started to ache a bit, and you start feeling little rubbing points in the feet, and just I don't walk. I don't walk in those walking boots at all. I put them on once a year for a weekend, which is not ideal.
Here's another controversial thing. In my experience, not in my opinion, in my experience, blisters are just from ill-fitting shoes or ill-fitting boots because it's hard to get boots that fit properly. Whereas
and it's to do with the right socks as well, isn't it? There's loads. I mean, we're going down a bit of a, but
it is. But I mean, lots of people say this, but this is a reason why people say I can't go walking because I get too many blisters and all that. It's like it'll be, footwear makes a massive difference because it's like tires on a car. They're the only thing in contact with the ground. So you need good ones, right?
So I didn't get any blisters as such, but I could just feel, it felt different in those shoes. But it was more like the Achilles, and then, like I say, a couple of days for the next couple of days. So we did that walk on the Saturday, probably the Sunday, the Monday, possibly the Tuesday. Could just feel it a little bit in the hamstrings, and my legs were just generally a bit tired, just from not doing it. It's just it shows how specific training is, and you can squat, you can lunge, you can do strength training on the legs. You can walk, just about day to day. But when you suddenly just say, right, but what is good is that everybody kind of did the walk and got through it, and we're all a bit tired at the end of it, and it was nice to get back to the hotel and put your feet up and have a drink and stuff. But I think if you've got that general overall fitness, stroke conditioning, stroke health, you're not carrying too much extra weight and things like that, you can just go out and do like a 10 to 15 mile walk. And it's tiring, your legs might get a bit tired, but if you've got that basic level of conditioning and health there, you can do it, which is great.
It's interesting though, because like you say, you lift weights and you do exercise and all of that, and you're very fit. But something as simple as going for a long walk can end up with aches and pains. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It just means you don't usually do that. So there's like lots of specific stuff. It's like for me, my heart rate, was a little bit too high. My resting heart rate, I thought, because I just checked it, and it was kind of like, I would check it throughout the day, and it was often up to 70 and above when I hadn't been doing a lot. So I was like, right, okay, I'm not happy about that. So I started doing snatch workout, and that's brought my resting heart rate right down to like 55 or something. So, but I do a lot of walking, which you think would bring your resting heart rate down, but obviously it doesn't. But I've also been carrying some extra weight, so it might be that as well. So who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so things are a little balance of just do what you can to keep yourself where you're at or where you want to be.
Yeah, because on that Saturday, I did over 30,000 steps. I think about 32,000 steps, something like that. Which I know we talked, I think last time we talked, or recently we talked, and you had a day where you did like over 40,000, didn't you? You did about.
So, for example, yesterday, just picking a random day, I've done 7,000 already today. Yeah. Yesterday, I did 26,000.
Yeah.
And I didn't leave the house till 3:30.
Yeah.
But that's because we do a group walk on a Wednesday.
Yeah, no, that's great. And just touching on something else, because we will talk about this more, because we want to talk about the impact that walking and steps has on overall activity and weight and that sort of thing. We'll touch on that. But I wanted to mention, you mentioned him earlier, Paul Field. He was listening to, I think he listened to the podcast with Mark Rifkin that we did a few back, which was, I think, episode 198, episode 198 with Mark. And one of the things that will come into kind of weight in a minute, and tracking, and your recent kind of experience that you can talk about. But Mark said about that this was interesting. Mark said that he weighs himself every single morning, and he just first thing in the morning, he'll weigh himself. And if he's, a bit lighter than he normally is, he knows that he can maybe eat a bit more that day. If he's a bit heavier than he normally is, he knows he's going to have a bit of a tighter day that day. And it sounded very, very simple, that simple kind of calibration in the morning. And Paul Field started doing that himself. I think the day after he listened to the podcast, if you like. And he went from just in the last, so it's only 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think he's down sort of like a couple of kilos, maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, just from having that. And it's the quote that I've used lots of times before, what gets measured gets managed. And he just started doing that, and it kind of resonated for him. That's not advocating or recommending that everybody weighs themselves every day, but that's just saying that Mark Rifkin said it, and Paul has started doing it, and he's really felt some good benefit from that, and seen some benefit from that. And all it does is it just puts it front and center of mind. And the Modern Wisdom podcast that you recommended to me with Mike Israetel, he did quite a bit, didn't he, about how often should you weigh yourself? And that was quite a conversation around that as well. But do you want to share your...
It's interesting because like just the caveat on that, which you've already put a caveat on it about weighing yourself every day. Paul, I mean, we're talking about Paul Field. I don't really know him, but he's not got loads to lose, has he? He's somewhere near where he wants to be. If you've got someone who's a lot bigger and have got a lot to lose, weighing yourself every day and going, oh, I can eat what I want today isn't really going to cut it, is it? You're going to have to, you're going to have to be in a deficit for a long time. Or waive it, like they talk about on that podcast, like Mike Israetel talks about, is like, you do it for a number of weeks, but then you want to have a rest. Otherwise, you get diet fatigue and what have you. Yeah.
That was So what you mentioned it earlier about your t-shirt and stuff, and we talked about it just before we started recording. So what have you done recently? What did you decide recently? And like you say, those small changes that you've made over the last, I don't know if it's few weeks or a month or how long it is, but talk a little bit about your experience.
So it's been 3 weeks and I've lost, I reckon 2 kilos, 4 pounds, 2 kilos there or thereabouts. They're, might be might be 5 pounds, but anyway, that's what I've lost. And I feel better. I feel leaner. But the reason it happened, right? I'd been eating more because I was getting stronger, and I was eating more because I was getting tired. And then I got to a point, I was just like, it was the other night, and I was just looking at my belly, and I was like, I'm not happy about that. Like I say, the belt line of my boxers was falling over. And then I caught a glimpse of myself out walking through town in a shop window. And I was like, I can see a tire. I don't like that. And I just didn't like the look of it, right? So all I did was say, right, I need to drop that. So that was a similar thing to the Mark Rifkin thing of, I keep an eye on that. And then so 5 days a week, I have eggs for breakfast. Like three weekdays, I have 4 eggs for breakfast, plus other stuff, but 4 eggs. And then weekends, 3 eggs. So all I did was have 3 during the week and 2 at the weekend, right? So I've cut out 5 eggs, which is like 400 calories or something across the week. And then what I had been doing as well, so the breakfast I'd been having, I'd then sometime a few hours before my evening meal, I'd have like a bowl of yogurt with some nuts in, or crumble a Trek bar in, or something, just something simple, right? Because I was like, right, that's extra calories, extra protein, for lifting stuff. I just stopped eating that as well. So it's been 3 weeks. I've been hungry. I realized I hadn't really felt hungry for a long time. So I've had hunger. I've been a bit tired. But like I say, I've lost about 4.5, 5 pounds in 2 weeks, which is about right. 2 pounds a week. That's what I'm kind of looking at. And I'm not looking at losing loads of weight. I'm looking at losing body fat, right? So I'm looking to get leaner. So I reckon roughly that's probably cut out between 2,000, 2,500 calories a week out of what I was eating, which is about a day's worth for me. And that's it. That's all I've done. I haven't changed my activity levels, because someone said to me the other day, yeah, but you do loads of walking, so that makes it easier. I was like, yeah, but I was doing that anyway, and I still put weight on. So it's because of the amount I was eating, not the amount of exercise I was doing. I still do the same weight. I still do the same amount of walking, and I'm just eating a little bit. It's actually quite a lot less. It's 1 day's worth of calories in a week. But to get to that, it's just a little bit each day. So it's not that much. Yeah.
Because it was interesting. We'll talk a little bit about the podcast, this Modern Wisdom podcast, which is it Williamson, is it?
It is, yeah.
Chris Williamson. And he had Dr. Mike Israetel on. It's the one which is about the science of fat loss, I think. And listening to it, it was I said to Pete, it was didn't I? I said it's almost like it's a 2.5 hour version of the last podcast we did, and a lot more scientific. But the kind of conclusions they come to are kind of the same that we were talking about last week, where we were talking about what's changed in the last 25 years, and how society has changed, and the convenience culture has changed, and activity has possibly changed, and lifestyles have changed, and all the rest of it. And it was interesting because I just like some of the analogies that Mike Israetel used, because I was listening to it with Steph. We were driving back. We were up at Wimbledon a couple of days ago watching the tennis, and we were driving back from London, and we put the podcast on, so we both listened to it, and she enjoyed listening to it as well because he's quite funny, isn't he? And his analogies are very accessible. And
he's really gentle.
Yeah,
with how he explains stuff, which is what I love. Because you look at him and you look at him and he's massive, but he's like,
yeah. I mean, he is. I mean, I followed him for quite a while, and I watch a lot of his stuff on YouTube. Mike Israetel, this is with Renaissance periodization, and but no, it was good. And he says, doesn't he, about the 250 calories a day, less, and maybe try and increase your steps by a couple of thousand a day. So it's not massive swings. It's not drastic changes. It's because he talks about the most important thing. And again, none of this is rocket science. None of this is stuff that you haven't all heard before and that we haven't heard before. But he talks about the importance of sustainability above and beyond everything else, So if you can, and like Pete alluded to earlier, where he would suggest if you're trying to lose weight or body fat, doing maybe 8 to 12 weeks on some kind of caloric restriction diet, creating a deficit, and then maybe giving yourself, 4 to 6 weeks where you just try and maintain what you've lost, and then maybe say, right, okay, now I'm going to try and another 6 to 8 weeks, I'm going to go back into creating a deficit and going to try and move it down a bit more. Because he said one of the biggest things people try and do, or one of the biggest mistakes, is if you've got a lot of weight to lose, try and lose it all at once, then, but no, that was interesting. But the walking, because he was massively into the walking, wasn't he? In terms of, he said everything that you need, any leanness or body fat goal that you might have, you can achieve through caloric sort of restriction and subtle calorie deficit and walking. You don't obviously, and we know you don't need to run, you don't need to cycle, you don't need to there's no mandatory exercises for fat loss. It's just about creating that deficit. But he was talking about just creating the deficit in such a way that is subtle and is sustainable, so that you don't rebound, and you don't, because we all know, and we've all probably done it before, where we've tried to exercise hard, too much, too soon, too hard, and you just basically get very, very hungry, and you're tired, and you're aching, and you're potentially injure yourself and all the rest of it. And so that's not sustainable. So no, I thought it was a really, really positive podcast, actually.
It was, I thought it was brilliant because it's something that people get really confused about. And most people don't need to know all of the stuff he talks about, the science behind it and all of that. He knows all of that. And we know it, but we kind of can't explain it. You know what I mean? We couldn't explain it like he could, but we know what it is. But it all boils down to the simple stuff for most people who aren't bodybuilders or athletes or like Olympic athletes or whatever, just want to do a bit of a half marathon or something like that. It's super simple.
Yeah.
And so one of my guys, I was talking about this, and if he's listening, I'm not rubbishing him, but it's just, this was the conversation we had.
But it's good because it's kind of, this is the way lots of people think about it, isn't it? What you're about to say, it's kind of a common thing, It's
So we were just chatting away the other day in the group, as we were as the guys were training and what have you, and he said because he snores, he'd bought some mouth tape to shut his mouth, and so he'd breathe through his nose and wouldn't snore. And then he said, well, that was a waste of money because it didn't work. And I'm like, right. And I said, there is another way you could stop snoring. And he said, I know I could lose a load of weight. Right. And so then that opened up the conversation. Right. So it was like, because it's not like he turns up every morning. I'm like, you need to lose weight. You need to lose, because that's not going to go very well, is it? But he's tried in the past and what have you, but he's a very busy guy and all of this, right? All the usual stuff. So we just started having a chat about it. And I told him what I was doing. I was like, I'm eating slightly less and I'm trimming down, right? And he I then said, the problem is you'll get someone. So he's tried lots of stuff. So I was like, just track the calories that you're eating at the moment so we know where you're at. Because you're either eating too much or the right amount to stay exactly where you are now. So all we need to know is we need to reduce it slightly. But you don't have to count calories. You just have to eat less. But it is as simple as that. But there's the whole mental side of it, busyness, all of this, right? So we know all that, but it's like we need to know where we're at. So I said, the problem is if I say to you, track your food, track your calories, you know how much you're eating, but then you'll go, but I've got a wedding coming up this weekend. I've got someone's birthday next weekend. It's July, so we'll be on holiday for 2 weeks soon. This, that becomes a thing. So it's like, well, I can track them, but that's not really, like Dan John talks about, it's not really me. That's not an average week. And it's like, well, if it goes on for 3 months, it is. So we had this whole conversation, and at the end of the session, I said, just track your calories for a week, and then we'll talk about this next week. And he said, okay. And this was on Tuesday. He goes, but I'll see you Monday. I'll not be here Friday because I'm out in London on Thursday. So I'll still be in London Friday morning. I'll probably be having a few beers and stuff like that because we're going out for a business lunch and and all that. So actually, tracking calories on that.
Well, you might say, actually, I'll start next Monday.
So basically, yeah. So basically, that's not the average. And I said, and I didn't say it. He went, and I was just saying, you've just done exactly what I said would happen, because I know it would, because I've seen all of this before, right? We all have, right? So it was just funny. So I sent him, and this is why I sent it to you, because I was just like, this podcast episode was really good. And so I sent him a 29-second soundbite of the podcast. Now, before I sent it, I said, I'm sending this because I care. I'm not trying to batter you or anything. I'm sending it because I care. And it's where Mike Israetel says, there's 3 options when you want to lose weight. You can not move and carry on not moving and just eat less, and you'll lose weight. That's option 1. Option 2, you can eat a little bit less, and then if you're sedentary, start a little bit of weight training and some like 10,000-ish steps, and you're golden. That's sustainable. Or you can keep on smashing the food in and the beers and everything and do stupid amounts of exercise, which isn't sustainable for anyone. 29 seconds. Yeah. And it was like, and I just sent that to him and I said, that's the exact conversation we had this morning. So, and he said, thank you. And then I'll see him next week and then we'll talk about it again. But this is the thing of like, he'd even bought, and I've never heard of this, an anti-snore pillow.
Okay.
What's that?
Did you listen on the podcast? He's got obviously sponsors and things, and I think he's sponsored by like 8 Sleep mattresses and beds and stuff. And there was one of the adverts, and he said, just because we're talking about snoring, he said the pillow or the bed will recognize if you're snoring, and it will elevate your head by a few degrees, so it will actually kind of adjust so you become more upright, so you stop snoring. Or so it's incredible. So it's one of the, God knows how much this bed costs, but it will recognize that you're snoring, and it will incline to raise you up so you're not flat on your back, and so it raises you up so you won't be snoring.
Yeah, but if you're overweight, that it doesn't solve that problem, does it?
No, well, it's like you said. I mean, I kind of joked, didn't I? Like when you said about the mouth tape. I kind of said, didn't I? That is the epitome of sticking an elastoplast, a plaster over like a gaping wound, or trying to mask the symptom of the problem without addressing the problem.
Here's the funny thing though: the snoring pillow, the anti-snore pillow, which I don't know what it is. I think it puts your head in a certain position or whatever.
Yeah,
it didn't work, so he took it back, and they wouldn't accept it because he'd used it. So there's 2. Like this is, I don't know how much there were. I don't think he spent like loads of money, but there's 2 examples of just throwing money at a problem and it not working.
Yeah, I mean, all of this. I mean, we must. This is now episode 204. We're approaching 4 years of doing this every single week, and the basic sort of tenets or message of, like Dan talks about, little and often over the long haul, consistency beats intensity, make yourself a slave to good habits. You know, small habits, small changes done consistently create. I mean, it's none of it is it's all the same advice that we kind of give and that we talk about, and that every guest really who comes on knows to be true, and every listener who's listening or every watcher who's watching knows to be true. That doing the small basic habits consistently for weeks and months and years on end are the things that are going to get you the results, you know. And looking to lose half a pound to a pound a week rather than 5 pounds a week, you know, but make it consistent and make it permanent rather than yo-yoing, you know. It's yeah, it's fascinating, it really is. But I think we're, well, I don't know, I'm getting clearer on things. I think you know, we're you know, I love the fact that even Mike Israetel, who is a, you know, a power lifter, a bodybuilder, a doctor of sports science, he's like a senior lecturer at a college and everything, but he's basically saying the same stuff that we've been saying for the last 4 years, you know. Like we said, it's taken him 2.5 hours and he's using far bigger words and, you know, going into far more detail about it, but it's essentially the same message, isn't it? You know? Yeah.
The funny thing is, it's like, if you've been doing this stuff for a while and you've been getting results, then obviously the other stuff, you know, the sciencey stuff, because then comes into play, because you've created a bit of level for yourself and the character you are and all of that. So it's like, right, how do I improve further if you want that, right? But for the vast majority of people who are getting started or have been on the, like, who've been on diets and tried and failed, or have been at something for like 3 months and then they're like, right, I need to know the next level now. It's like, no, you don't. You need to just keep it consistent and make it something that they were talking about the difference between transformation and change. You know, like a 12-week program and your body looks totally different. That's a change. It's not a transformation, because you haven't transformed anything, because you can just go back to where you were. So all you've done is change for a bit, but not transformed. Transformation is like a
more of a permanent change.
What do you call it? Anyway, they said like a caterpillar to a butterfly, metamorphosis.
Yeah.
I'm trying to use big words now because we're talking about it. No, but so all the other stuff after move more and eat less, a little bit more and a little bit less, which obviously is the advice, but it's not as, it is as simple as that, but it's not as simple as that in people's heads.
It's the application of that advice.
Exactly. It's the mentality behind it and the changing of character and everything like that. But then after that, they were talking about the epoch, the afterburn effect of lifting and running and all sorts and all that. So you don't need to know any of that, because if you're relying on that in the beginning, you're screwed straight away. So it's like, build the we've talked about it before in strength training, build the foundation. Or, you know, they said if you plant a seed, you don't see anything for ages because it's growing down first and then it comes up and all of that. That's what we're looking at. So in the beginning, it's just like, keep it simple. And I know this only too well because I tried to push things 10 years ago and got injured and sore and all of that. I've still got a dodgy left shoulder. But over the last 4 or 5 years, I'm just turn up, do the thing and leave. Turn up, do the thing and leave. And then get about your day and just be mindful of it. So the fact that I wanted to lose a few pounds of body fat, I'll just eat a little bit less. I know that, and I can do that. And it's not enjoyable, by the way. I mean, I've been in a bad mood for the last few days and I don't feel bad, but I don't feel as great as I usually do. But so what? I'll be going on holiday in about a month. So I've done it for 3 weeks. I'll probably do another 4. And then I'm like, right, that's it. That's fine. And we'll see what it's like in September. So I'll have a month. I'll have August off.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it's really one of the things. Another thing I was thinking of when I was watching this tennis at Wimbledon the other day, again, which ties into everyone and everything, is the players there, they're like the top tennis players in the world, obviously. And to win like a match or to win a tournament, or like we're seeing at the moment anyway, this is coming out, probably is going to be a bit dated. But we've got the Euro football on at the moment. And everyone's getting on at the England team and the England manager and stuff, but we're winning. You know what I mean? It's bad. It's ugly football, but we've kind of qualified. Then we're through to the quarterfinals now, and we've got a quarterfinal on Saturday. But all the tennis, you know, these people are playing this tennis at the highest level, and the difference between winning and losing is, it's not even, I don't think, I was trying to work it out. It's not even that you have to win more points in the match than you lose to win, because it doesn't work like that. It's just, you just got the margin for success and the margin for winning and the margin for losing can come down to just a couple of key moments in a match, you know. And they all just train, and there's only so many, like with boxing, you know, there's basically sort of 1, 2, 3, there's 8 punches really that you can throw, and everyone's got 2 arms and can throw the same 8 punches. And in tennis, you know, you've basically got, you know, say half a dozen shots, and everyone can only do those half a dozen shots. So it's just mastering, like you mentioned, mastering the fundamentals, mastering the basics. And these people have been playing tennis, most of them probably since they were 4 or 5 years old, you know, or 3 or 4. And they're now in their 20s or their 30s, but they've been practicing and learning and drilling the basics and just getting really, really good at the basics. And that is all it is. You know, it's not, there's no secret moves or secret shots or secret techniques that the you know, Djokovic has got that other people haven't got. He just can play and just be consistent and just train and just master the basics better and longer than everybody else, you know.
Well, to my mind as well, what they'll do is, like, when they're young and they're playing, they'll just let them play and run around and get better. Just get more familiar with the court and play. And they'll be like, you know, they'll obviously be coaching and stuff like that, but it's like, just play. And then as they get a little bit older, it'll be like, right, let's start to play a lot of shots from over here. Get that shot sorted. And then like, they do it in golf, don't they? Like, you're going to hit a ball out of a bunker for the next like 3 weeks. that's all you're going to do, or 6 months or whatever it is. I don't know, but like, that's what you're going to do. So when it happens in a match, you'll know exactly what to do. You don't just give it like 3 goes and go, oh, I got it that time, so therefore it's the thing of you know, you don't practice until you get it right. You practice until you can't get it wrong in most situations. And that's the thing that most people don't need. So the practicing of the shots and all that isn't the thing that they necessarily need, because they're not trying to become elite. You just need to play the game in the beginning. That's it.
Yeah. And be consistent. That's just what I thought. Just I was sitting there watching all day, and I just thought it like you say, you don't need to, there's nothing fancy, you know, it's tennis, you know, and the people who are better at it are just better at it, you know, the tennis, you know, they've just done it for longer and they practice more potentially, and there's some natural talent and genetics there, and coaching and environment and all the rest of it. But
what amazes me about tennis, because I mean, like, if you look at like other like football and stuff, like, okay, you got to run around a lot and you need to be fit and everything, but there's a team and everything. Tennis, you're there on your own. You got to hit the ball extremely hard, and it's also coming at you extremely fast. So you've got to be on it.
Yeah,
you know, like Formula One sort of thing, like their reactions and everything, like the stress.
Yeah,
like the ball's coming at you so fast, and you've got to do that for 3 sets or 5 sets for like 5 hours. It's just, and then you've got to do it like every other day and they play for the, like the ones on the, like properly on the cert, they play for like the whole year. It's just
it's amazing. And we watched, the last game we watched was like a 5-set match with Jack Draper, and he won. He went through to the next round, but it was 5 sets. They're playing for like about 3.5 hours, you know, on this court. And like you say, the level of concentration that you need for the whole time, let alone the physical ability to just continue and to play, you know, essentially exactly the same for 3.5 hours and not show any fatigue. is incredible. You know, it's yeah, super endurance, fitness, but it's the mental concentration required. And I was watching something. It's really this ties in as well to the training. You know, when we talk about out of say 10 workouts, you know, you might have 2 that are really good, 2 that are really bad, and 8 that are, you know, kind of you're just punching the clock, you're just doing it. I was watching, we were
That's 12
watching.
workouts.
Oh, is it? Two, sorry, 2, 2, and 6 then, yeah. 2, 2, and 6. But then you extrapolate it out into a percentage, don't you? And you say, well, for every 100 workouts, you know,
Yeah.
you might have 10 that are really good, 10 that are really bad, and the 80 in the middle are just, you know. So this is what they said on the tennis the other day. I was watching it on the TV, and the commentators sort of said some of these players, they'll play like 100 matches a year. So in 365 days, you know, you're effectively playing a match every sort of 3 or 4 days, you know.
Yeah, 2 a week,
yeah, more, and then through a tournament, if you get further, you're playing like you know. But a lot of them, they're going from one tournament to the next tournament to the next tournament. They can be playing 100 matches a year, and they said that out of those matches, 5 might be, and it ties into the workouts. 5 might be really important, brilliant matches where they really, you know, the ones that really make a difference, where you're playing in like a final or a semi-final or whatever. And 5 you'll play atrociously, and you're like the lady who won Wimbledon last year went out in the first round this year because we saw her go out. But then the kind of the 90 matches in the middle, you're just turning up and you're just trying to do your best. You know what I mean? You're just kind
getting the reps in.
Get the reps in, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and the smaller tournaments and the tournaments that don't kind of matter quite so much, and maybe the prize money isn't quite so high, and they're not so prestigious. You're just training. You just practice. You know, you're just doing that. It's
so bringing if bringing that back to the whole conversation. Is if you start out and you want to get as strong as possible as fast as possible, or you want to lose a load of weight, lose weight as fast as possible and all that, you're trying to start at that level of concentration of a Wimbledon tournament or something, rather than starting as the 5-year-old, which you are in this instance, of just playing the game.
Yeah.
And then further down the line, just getting the reps in, regardless of where you're at, just getting the reps in, because they're still doing that, and they play time after time after time after time. Because if they didn't, you know, I mean, it happens in the women's game a bit, doesn't it? The Williams sisters used to just rock up and play big tournaments and then disappear for the rest of the year. But certainly in the men's game,
they'll still be training like every day, won't they?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
but in the men's game, I mean, they're playing. I think it happens more in the men's game than the women, but they're playing year round, like every tournament that they can, and every time. And there was a thing ages ago, and it was Federer would always practice to play 5 sets, and he hardly ever would, but he'd always practice to, just in case, because otherwise he'd just get beat. If it went to set 4, he'd be like, right, that's me done.
Yeah. And I suppose it's interesting again. I'll tell you what, this is the equivalent of the mouth tape to solve the snoring. And it ties in with tennis, but with any sport. But it's also an analogy that crosses across to people trying to overcomplicate things, like we talked about with Dan the other week. You know, if someone starts playing tennis and they're really novice, they're a total novice, or they've never picked up a racket, they're going to their first lesson, but they buy the most expensive racket, you know, the professionals' rackets. It's the one that Roger Federer or Rafa Nadal or whoever uses, or, you know, Venus Williams, Serena Williams, you know, it's the one that the professional uses. They buy that racket because they think that racket is going to make them better at tennis or golf, you know, going to buy the best set of golf clubs, £1,000 set of golf clubs, when you've never even swung a club before, because you think that's going to help. That's the same, isn't it? Where, like you say, you just need to actually pick up a bloody wooden racket, or I don't even know if they still have wooden rackets, a wooden racket or a cheap racket, or get a racket second hand. And then as you get better, then you can upgrade your kit and all the rest of it. But so many people so you need to do the basics and learn it right to begin with. And the equipment really doesn't matter too much. And it's the same with people trying to, you know, lose weight or diet modification or whatever. They want to know the kind of complicated stuff and the science and the when really you start at the level that you're at. And then like you mentioned earlier, as you get more advanced and as you get leaner, then you might need the next level of knowledge or the next level of tactic or approach. But to begin with, you just need to get moving at the base level and then gradually improve. And then as you need to get things more complicated or more detailed or more professional, then you do. But you don't need to start worrying about the complex stuff, because do the basics consistently will get 90% of people 90% of where they need to be, won't it?
Yeah. There you go.
Brilliant. Cool. Okay. Right. Let's start.
There's nothing to add to it. We've spoke about it for 200 and odd episodes now. So
yeah. No, but that's good. But it's interesting. You know, it is interesting. But it's like when we spoke to Dan the other week, and it's kind of like I remember I said on episode 200 that you know, he felt this pressure to keep reinventing the wheel and coming up with new stuff. You're just coming up with new stuff for the sake of coming up with new stuff. You know what I mean? You don't need new stuff. You just need to do the stuff that you know works anyway, but you're avoiding, you know. Anyway, that's it. Cool, fantastic. Well,
we've fizzled out a bit there, haven't we?
No, we haven't. No, I don't think we fizzled out. We've kind of we've hit it, and then there's no need to say anymore. Brilliant. Well, that was episode 204. So next week for episode 205, we are, like I mentioned at the start, we are with Lucy Underdown. So that's going to be fantastic. And then I'm hoping that by the time we record next week, we'll also have a date in the diary that Lucy is going to be doing a deadlift seminar in Chelmsford in Essex. So she's literally, like I said, she is the strongest female. She's Britain's strongest man. She's been Britain's strongest woman. She's been, I think, world's strongest woman. She's been Europe's. She is definitely the female record holder in the deadlift. So that'd be amazing to learn how to deadlift from her. Will be fantastic. So I'm going to look forward to that. Nothing further to add, I don't think, Pete. We've been talking for an hour nearly, haven't we? Yeah.
No, done. Basically, everything was said. We could have said in a 30-second soundbite, by the way.
But we will next June. I don't know. We might talk about this. We might open it up. I mean, it's not going to be that there's going to be loads of people wanting to come, but
you never know.
When we do we never know by then. When we do next June, we're going to the Unique Results Walking Weekend is joining forces with Walk Bath in Bath, and we're going to have a fantastic weekend of walking. That's going to be next June. We have actually got the date for it now, but
like I said, I've already been looking at routes and planning them, and that we only need 2. And one of them's already nailed on, so I only need the Saturday.
I think it's the 20th to the 22nd of June, that weekend, 2025. We're both going to be in Bath walking. There'll be a group from my gym. There'll be Pete's Walk Bath group. And if any listeners happen to be in Somerset, is it, Bath?
Yes. You can argue about this for a long time as well. It's Somerset, or is it Bath and Northeast Somerset, or is it like Avon, which doesn't exist anymore? I don't think you've hit a water main there, mate.
If you're kind of Somerset, Devon area, you'll be near Wales. Even you'll be near to Bath. If you want to come for a weekend of walking with us, walking and banter, and maybe even an ale or two.
Definitely.
Yeah. That would be good.
But Walk Bath will be very different by then, actually, because it might not even be Walk Bath anymore. It might be something bigger, because I'm in the process of setting it up as a community interest company, so CIC. And then when I do that, you can then look for grants and like lottery grants and funding and what have you from all over the place. So that's what I'm looking at the minute. However, I've got no idea what I'm doing, so I'm just I'm getting some help. I talked to Elisha about it.
Oh yeah.
Because he's just set up. I can't remember what he called it, but he's just set up the kettlebell juggling thing as a CIC. So I had a chat with him, and he's put me on to someone else who's done it a few times before and knows all the stuff. So I'm currently chatting to her online actually, and then I'll get something set up. But I'm going to set it up, and then we'll be looking for funding and sponsorship. So you might not even need to come to Bath. It might we'll come to you. Not you. Not you. You guys are coming over. That's fine. But that's already nailed on. But I mean, like everyone else listening, it might be coming your way. You never know.
Brilliant. So that is the 20th to the 22nd of June, 2025. That's going to be good. Anyway, we will be back next week. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially if you are on Apple Podcasts. We really want to get some Apple Podcast reviews on there, which help us sort of expand our reach. And also, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe on YouTube. Okay, that's going to help us on there as well. Anyway, we will be back next week for episode 205 with Lucy Underdown. And until then, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.